All right, cool. It looks like we are live. All right, everybody, welcome to the 420 edition of Elevate Your Grind. If you've been paying attention to the Cannabis Lab channel, we had an awesome kind of pseudo interview visit from Commissioner Nikki Fried. We had a lot of fun with that one. Always great to see Commissioner Fried tell us what's going on, give us updates about, what she's working on. And obviously, one of the things that she's working on right now are regulations around hemp and CBD and how that applies to Florida. We thought it was only appropriate to bring on somebody to embellish on that a little bit, somebody who is working in that field, someone who deals with this every day, and in a great company that's become friends of mine since joining Cannabis Lab. I met these guys through C Lab, a lot of personal connections there, and we'll get into it throughout the interview. But please welcome Jeremy Green of Greenpoint Research.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you joining us today. So Greenpoint Research, I mean, you guys seem to be doing great, right? I'm friends with a couple of you guys there. I'm friends with Ray. I'm friends with Light. You have a phenomenal team. And it seems to me that one of the prerequisites of your team is a degree from either Florida State School of Business or School of Law. I mean, I'm keeping the helmet right here to my right just for you guys, but it is a team of legal minds from Florida State University, which I love because that's my alma mater. But these guys just seem to be doing the hemp farming thing right. They're out in front of everything. They're putting great content out there. And Jeremy, to me, it seems like as general counsel, your job is just to keep all these guys in line. So tell us a little bit more about Greenpoint, what you guys are doing, and then we'll get into your role a little bit.
Absolutely. So first off, go Knowles.
Go Knowles.
So Greenpoint Research, we're a large scale hemp cultivation and origination company, and then processing down the line from there to derivatives, extracts to be sold off to consumer product manufacturers. We got started here with getting our licensure under the hemp pilot project in conjunction with our partnership with Florida State University. Cool. That happened at the very end of last year, and we were able to go live and start cultivation at scale in 4 farm sites here in Florida, in South, Central, and North Florida to get that, the feel. It's been decades and decades, if not almost closer to a century, since hemp has been cultivated, at least at scale in Florida. So it's important that we, the minds, not the legal minds, the agronomics, to kind of test the waters with those different climates, considering that Florida, you got the Panhandle to South Florida is black and white.
No, it's really cool, and I love that you guys are helping bringing back agriculture to the state, right? As Commissioner Fried said this morning, agriculture is now our #1 producer in the state. We've historically been an agricultural state. And, people where we live in Southeast Florida, people tend to forget that the majority of the state is farmland, and it is an agricultural state because, your office is in Fort Lauderdale. I'm here in Boca Raton. It's very much, suburban and kind of a small city lifestyle. Does Greenpoint, because I see that you guys have partnered with some pretty cool historic farms here, one of them being the Wentworth farm up in Boynton Beach. Are you guys partnering with these farmers? Because I as I understand it, if I get anything wrong, please correct me. To me, Greenpoint is building almost a conglomerate of hemp farmers and just really focusing on putting out a quality product. Like, we're not going to see a branded Greenpoint CBD product, but as far as the ingredients to create a great CBD company or some kind of hemp-based company, it seems like Greenpoint is the right supplier.
Yeah, so mostly as a risk mitigation factor, we've taken about 1/3 of our operations fully, in-house, so to say, and that's with the partnership, as you're calling it, with Whitworth. That's actually our controlled farmland, and the actual management and operations of the operation over there. Then we have two actual partner farmers that are under contract, so they're contract farmers in Central and North Florida, and we assist in all the standard operating procedures, and getting everything really started. Making sure it's more than just babysitting. There is a full-on partnership, but that is land under their control, and that's through a separate contract farming relationship that we've developed.
Very cool. Well, to me, I think it's great that, again, that you guys are empowering these farmers and giving them an outlet. It always seems like their crop is going to have a place to go, and they're always going to be supported, especially by a company such as Greenpoint. I want to get into what you do a little bit more as general counsel. So, hemp is kind of, when it first started, it was right in lockstep with cannabis when it came to people learning about it and going through it and going to events. I mean, at any cannabis event, there was always a hemp and a CBD track and everything else. But at the end of the day, I kind of think the paths are starting to diverge, right? Where cannabis is really going down the medical cannabis path, and then hemp is really blown up into its own industry, and it's going to be beyond CBD. As general counsel, what is it like? We've gone over on the show a lot what the regulations are around the cannabis industry and the stringent regulations there, but the hemp industry is really not that much different from tracking the plant and everything else. What type of issues are you typically dealing with on a day-to-day basis when it comes to being the general counsel for a hemp company? What are the gotchas that you're looking for? What are the issues that come across your desk the most?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I like to think that, the role of in-house, you are arguably both the first and last line of defense for your company in whatever industry. However, that might be more challenging in a newer, less regulated, and arguably more scrutinized industry. So it's really kind of on two fronts, both from a compliance standpoint and from a transactional and contractual standpoint. So as you discussed earlier with Commissioner Freed, we have this newly USDA approved hemp plan, and you could have all the funding, financing, operational know-how, expertise, everything in the world. You got to play by the rules, like in any industry, but this is new. So there's no guidelines out there on Google, at least, tried and true, to just sit there and follow, and you'll know that you're following the rules, and that, Big Brother won't come knocking on your door. So there's a huge piece of that compliance, in fully understanding the regulatory framework, both at the local, state, and federal level, and then most importantly, applying that. You have to understand that everybody in your company is not a legal professional. They can't just read a statute and understand what it means and how to apply it. So you have to make sure that policies and procedures are in place that are easy to follow, and that most importantly will keep you compliant. And it's operations and salespeople and those people's jobs to make money. Well, I got to make sure that we keep that money, and my team. It's not just me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that compliance front. Separately, on the transactional and contractual side, that's been an interesting challenge. So I do not have an agriculture background, and one thing I've learned is for years and years and years, it's quite customary for a lot of farmers and other agricultural professionals to operate on just merely handshake deals, and for substantial sums of money, 6 figures, 7 figures, on nothing more than literally a hand. I mean,
Yeah.
no, but I have seen in the last year more cases making headlines about, some six-figure biomass arrangement gone bad, and some party wants to, renege on some agreement. And what happens? What do you do if you don't have a properly, papered up, transaction? One or both of those parties can be, really out of luck.
So when it came to the CBD industry mainly, and I hate to generalize, but we saw CBD kind of blow up real fast. And I don't know if it was because, it was just the next thing that people had their attention on, if it was the digital marketers who came in and just wanted to create companies and jump on the latest hot topic, or if it was the fact that it was the only way that a lot of people could have gotten involved in the cannabis industry without having to get a medical marijuana license or even a recreational license within the state that they're in. In your experience, do you see a lot of unsophisticated companies, and is that kind of what you're going off of, where they're just in the business because they're trying to sell CBD and they're trying to make money, but they don't realize that they're not following compliance, that the contracts that they're doing could be, maybe it's a legal Zoom contract, or maybe it's just something they found on the internet and it's not. Do you see a lot of unsophistication in the CBD industry?
Yeah, I come across, Google lawyers almost weekly. Um, but, you know, some of it's by pure choice. There are plenty of, I'm sure you've seen dozens, or hundreds. There's plenty of actors out here who are perfectly fine with making their quick buck and getting out and moving on to the next thing. It's those people who didn't do that by choice, knowing that it's a quick entry and quick exit. It's the people who are in it for the long haul, but don't take those proper measures and precautions, who jeopardize their longevity in the industry. You can't just expect to find everything you need on Google. You do need to consult with the proper professionals, at times, to help make sure everything is, kosher.
Yeah. And especially if you're going to Google it, at least try to go past the first page and get some real information, right? A lot of people should probably check the sources. There's definitely a lot of unsophistication in this industry, unfortunately, just because it is, a lot of people want to get involved and they don't have those formal educations. And unfortunately, a lot of people with those formal educations that have licenses or have state licenses or FINRA licenses or anything else are hesitant to get involved for fear of losing those licenses. So unfortunately, it just, it seems to be a problem with our industry. Now, you had mentioned something I thought it was kind of interesting earlier in your last response, that not everybody in your organization is a legal professional, so they can't just read a statute and figure out how to act on it. You're in a unique situation where a lot of people in your company have a Florida State law degree. Does that make your job easier or harder? Because I can imagine that some of the people that you work with might try to make an argument for why they're right and are doing the things that they're doing, but in reality, they're just making a legal argument for it, and they're trying to interpret the statute a little different. What does that do to your job?
So, great question. Honestly, it just provides for a greater think tank. I'm going to go ahead and appreciate that I don't know everything. And, collaboration is 99 times out of 100 a good thing. So if some new piece of legislation comes out, or some contract dispute we're having, and someone interprets it one way and another interprets it the other, not everything, the most common answer to a question that you ask in law school, the most common answer you get is, it depends. Not everything is black and white. Very few things are. And so actually being in that unique, kind of position where I am surrounded by a bunch of people, or several others with law degrees, it can be certainly beneficial. But, at the point we're at, while there are, plenty of law degrees around, it's more so who wears, the attorney hat around here.
Yeah.
And that's myself and our chief compliance officer, Light Townsend, who you said you're friends with also. And we the way it kind of works with that, it's a pretty tight ship, and it works.
Yeah, I can imagine that there are definitely some interesting conversations within those office walls. So there's one thing that I'm trying to kind of understand from my conversation with Commissioner Freed today, right? So she let us know that the hemp regulations were passed in Florida, that the USDA approved them, and that is officially coming out a week from today on the 27th. However, you guys were able to get in through a pilot program. I believe, have been growing, and you're not the first people I know that were able to kind of get started already. What's the difference? What exactly is the meaning of what's coming out on the 27th? Is it just that there was a small group of people got selected for a pilot program to see if it worked and they're testing it, and now now anybody can apply for a license? Or where are we, and help us understand exactly what this means for the industry and what it means for our state?
So your primary difference is what's going live on April 27th is purely commercial permits. You need no oversight or partnership with any public university. And whether it's sole proprietor farmer, or a big traditional big ag conglomerate, they can apply through those channels, and then you are subject to the new regulatory framework that was just approved by the USDA, by statute section 581-217, which was passed in 2019 and made effective July 1, that actually created Florida's hemp program at the statutory level. Where the difference is with what we're going to be doing that. It was just, until then, we did what anybody could do. So in response to the 2014 Farm Bill, Florida and many other states passed their respective hemp pilot project statutes. And what those outlined was the process for interested, hemp industry actors to kind of get in the space under a different set of guidelines. You needed, the actual applicant and the license holder is not necessarily the private entity, but the university who is conducting the hemp pilot project. And the university, like a University of Florida, Florida State University, et cetera, they have qualified project partners. And, a lot of people are very familiar with University of Florida and some, numerous qualified project partners. So ours is with Florida State University. We are a qualified project partner of theirs. And under the licenses that we were issued through that application, that allows us, under a different, but not crazy different, but under a different set of guidelines, to conduct the operations that we're currently conducting at our 4 farm sites here in Florida.
No, and thank you for going through that. Unfortunately, when it comes to both for cannabis and hemp CBD, it always seems like it gets approved, but it didn't really get approved, and then all of a sudden in the future it gets approved again. So to me, that really helps clear things up, and understand, right? Because we've all seen that people are growing, we've seen that people are operating, but all of a sudden the regulations are just coming out next week, right? So I really appreciate you going through that. I want to get into your background a little bit more. So, you guys put together this super team of Florida State lawyers at Greenpoint, but you weren't always working for Greenpoint, right? You went to Florida State, and I believe you worked for a law firm right out of school. And then fast forward, now you're working for a great hemp company. You've got a great group of guys there, still young. How did you go on that journey from going from school to a law firm to getting wrapped up in the CBD hemp space? Is this somewhere that you wanted to work, or did you just kind of fall into it? I hear everyone's stories like, I got my first hemp client or I got my first cannabis client, and then we did really well there, and then it was 2 and 3 and 10, and now I'm leading the cannabis practice, right? Or now I, look at VJ Choksky from Grow Healthy, was outside counsel at Kelly Cronenberg, and now he's in-house for compliance. So I love hearing people's story about how they went from their traditional job, because none of us were in cannabis a few years ago, to you being in-house counsel or general counsel for Greenpoint.
So it's funny. VJ was actually one of the first people I met in the space. Um, so right out of school, I got started off at a private law firm, practiced commercial litigation and medical malpractice. I was in the courtroom just about every day, but the primary focus of my education was, the world of quote unquote business law, and it's definitely not easy to get that in-house or transactional role right out of school without a pretty deep list of experience. So the litigation route was not something that I was actually longing for, but it did present a pretty great breadth of experience, especially because of the law firm that I worked for was primarily a defense firm. So there's a lot of the, defense mindset that I've brought over from that line of work for, almost 2 years and apply it here on a daily basis. So having been friends with the 3 founders of Greenpoint, David Hasenauer, Jordan Pace, and Mike Townsend from law school, they had been working on this project as their baby while we were in law school. I was never involved, but once we were all out of school, all practicing or working on our own, it was one of those things where I fell into it. I was approached and very lucky and thankful to be given the opportunity to come on board. They understood, certain of my strengths from having focused on business law in school, and, definitely saw an opportunity for me. And, I couldn't say no. And, obviously very thankful to them and the team. And, we've grown, since really going, in full swing since the beginning of 2019. We've grown together as a team and continue to on a daily basis, even while we're all working remotely at the moment.
Yeah. No, it's the remote work is certainly interesting. And as you bring that up, how has that affected your guys' ability to operate? Because, I've been to your offices. You guys have a nice office. There seems to be a really good sense of collaboration in there. What's it like now dealing with COVID-19, with you guys having to be separated and clearly, I'm assuming farm visits and things like that have to be severely limited.
Yeah. I would definitely say the world of agriculture is a bit better, at least our world of agriculture is a bit better placed, positioned than others. There was a representative from the Utah Department of Agriculture a couple of weeks ago who was interviewed, and they were asking about how they're experiencing the troubles of COVID-19. And I think they said it best, and it was that farmers have been practicing social distancing for decades, and this is no different.
Yeah.
So, out in the field, there's really little to no differences, on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, we've implemented, different, hygiene, policies, and, limiting the numbers of people in certain areas. But and to your point, yes, our farm visit, we've actually had to postpone a couple of our educational tours of our hemp nursery in Central Florida, and then 2 our kind of large planting event at the Boynton farm site near you, that occurred a bit over a month ago. And those are postponed. It's okay. We'll turn the planting event into a harvesting event if everything
Yeah.
is free up by then. Um, Other than that, the collaboration has been, you know, I think we're lucky to have kind of already been positioned to, kind of thrive under this. Everyone's on iPads and laptops, and we all use cloud-based, whether it's Dropbox or Microsoft Teams or the like. We still maintain constant communication and have, weekly and even more frequently calls with, certain verticals. And we haven't really skipped a beat, and it's nice to see. But everyone, we were a very, very small team. We're still a small team, but from 4 employees to 35 employees, we're certainly getting there. And everyone's still maintaining a good working relationship, even during these tough times.
That's great to hear, and I love hearing this technology that you guys are using, because that's my background. Working with real cloud pros, we're setting up a lot of people with those technologies, and it's great to hear that you guys are already prepared for something like this, and are able to work virtually and collaborate, and it really hasn't impacted your business at all. One of the things that we focus on a lot is business continuity and disaster recovery, and typically it's centered around hurricanes because of where we live, but nobody saw this coming, and it looks like you guys were more than prepared. We're getting over a half hour here, and I told you that the time would go really fast, but one of the things, you made a really cool move, right? Going from a law firm to eventually coming in house as general counsel, right? And a lot of my friends that are in C-Lab and a few out, they have their eye on making that move, right? They want to go from outside counsel to in-house. Now, I know a lot of people have made that move. I've also know somebody who made the opposite move in Zach Coburn, who went from Knox, which is Fluent, to Ackerman, right? What kind of advice do you have for people that are looking to make that move? I mean, is the grass greener? Is it just is a horse of a different color? What's it like working with companies from the outside to getting fully on board with a company and being the legal mind for them within their walls? You know,
So any current attorney would definitely appreciate not having to manage billable hours. So that's a huge plus right out of the gate. But no, it's being part of a more intimate team, and really being part of and watching something grow. Um, no pun intended. That's really where I think there's more inherent kind of value and pride. Personally, um, in terms of advice that I would give people, you know, if you want to dive into the industry, you know, try your best to become some sort of thought leader. There's a wealth of statutory and regulatory guidance out there and framework that if you want a position anywhere in a company to be an in-house counsel, you're going to need to know that pretty well. So take this time, go through the rules that Florida Department of Agriculture has issued and are going to be finalized. Go through the statutes and try to understand where the interplay is and how they affect businesses. If you want to go and cold call and reach out to some companies and inquire, if it's one thing to be inexperienced as in-house, but if you don't really know anything in the space, that presents some challenges, and where's your value add? So really show that you want to be part of it and that you've taken it amongst yourself to, go out of your way and learn. One thing me and my team did, and I've had it here in case I've had to reference it, but, the Hemp Industries Association of Florida, we spent last, fall and part of winter drafting the Southeastern Hemp Guide. And it's a pretty, easily digestible for any, not just attorneys, easily digestible, guidebook for the whole Southeast US, state by state, from the licensing process to, what are your seed requirements, to how do I transport harvested hemp properly and follow all the rules. Um, I'm not saying you got to go out and do that, but those resources are available. And, I would love to, make that available through this, but, it's free. But yeah, that's my
Absolutely. So if somebody wanted to take a look at that, that's something that you and your team were more than generous putting together, where would they be able to find it?
So that's on the Hemp Industries Association of Florida's website at hiafl.org. And it's
Very
right
cool.
there. You can
And
click your state that you want to pull the PDF from, or the whole Southeast together.
very cool. And that's an organization that Greenpoint has gotten pretty heavily involved with, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. So, excuse me.
You're
So,
good.
Greenpoint was kind of the founding member of the Hemp Industries Association's Florida chapter. And we've done a pretty great job, I would say. The team with Ray Mazzi you were talking about, our executive director, David Hasenauer, the chairman, and a bit more recently, former Lieutenant Governor Carlos Lopez Cantera, the president of the HIAF. We've done they've done a pretty great job building out a board and members of all walks of the supply chain in the hemp industry. You have your industry professionals in cultivation and irrigation and all that, down to refining, processing, down to manufacturing of consumer goods, down to merchant processors. It's really kind of advocating for the industry as a whole, not any one particular vertical.
It's cool, man. And I think, it's great that you guys are so involved, because not only are you guys killing it at Greenpoint, but you're also putting a lot of good back into the industry and giving a lot of great information, like that guy that you just showed us. And I think that's going to be very beneficial to a lot of folks that are in the industry already, looking to up their game, or as we say here, elevate their grind, or, those folks who are trying to get into the industry. So we can start wrapping it up here, but I'm a big fan of Greenpoint. Obviously, I've got the hat here on the desk. I stole it from the office. I'm sure you're enjoying wearing your athleisure as opposed to the suit and tie every day. You guys actually have some great gear. You got your seeds in the ground. You're growing. Things are heading in the right direction. You're growing both from a hemp standpoint and from a company standpoint. What do we expect? Current situation aside, what can we expect to see from Greenpoint this year?
We have a couple, recent additions to the team that I think are going to be, quite amazing for our expansion. Recently we brought on board our Chief Science Officer, Matt Turner. He's the former Global Manufacturing Operations Manager at Cargill. He was the Chief Operating Officer at Justin's Nut Butter. And he's, going to really allow us to get our processing vertical, up online this year. And, it's someone with that level of expertise who, we know he'll do a great job and allow for that expansion to happen and most importantly happen, correctly. Once we want to, encourage as many farmers, small or large, to try. A lot of people want to dip their toe in the water, and they might have 5 acres and they don't want to go all, they don't want to bet the farm. That's fine. Try out an acre or less. But we're here to help answer those questions, whether Greenpoint Research or the Hemp Industries Association of Florida, and can help point people in the right directions. When they're trying to acquire, certain genetics, because that's probably one of the more sketchier, offerings out there. Is there's a lot of people out there offering, selling magic beans, and, they're attaching certificates of analysis that are either just fraudulent or not even, actually from that,
Yeah.
that particular cultivar. So, people do have to do their due diligence out there.
No, and I would definitely recommend that people are skeptical when they get involved in this industry. I mean, unfortunately, as with any nascent industry, there's just a lot of bad apples that get involved. Um, Hey, I really appreciate you joining today. I know everyone's busy. It's 420. That was an awesome conversation. I know there's a ton more that we can get involved with, but how do we, if we want to get involved with Greenpoint, if people are looking for help, whether they're farmers or they're looking for biomass or whatever they're looking for, just more information on regulations, how do we find you guys?
Yeah. So we're headquartered in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And I encourage you to, probably check out our website, greenpointresearch.com. You can contact us through there. Farmer inquiries. If you're looking to acquire genetics, whether seeds or seed starts, save you some of the trouble, some of the work. So, you can reach out to us through the website or info@greenpointresearch.com. And then the other, the trade association, the Hemp Industries Association, that's hiafl.org. And you can reach out to the organization from there. If you're interested in becoming a member, seeing what membership benefits may include, to see if it's right for you. And one thing that the HIAF is offering its members is free application assistance as they undergo the process for trying to become licensed to grow.
Very cool, man. Well, I highly recommend everyone going out and finding Greenpoint online. If you can find them on LinkedIn, Jeremy, Ray Mazzy, they put out a ton of great information that you can follow on LinkedIn. So definitely find these guys on LinkedIn, give them a follow. I promise that you're going to like it. Jeremy, I can't thank you enough for being on this. I'm sure that this won't be the last we hear from Greenpoint because it's my show and I like you guys. So I get to have on as many people as I want. So I'm sure we'll have you back. We'll have Light on. We'll have Ray on. And I want to give a special shout out to an obscure reference in the Florida State world, but Drew Weatherford. Drew Weatherford played quarterback when I was at Florida State. And shockingly enough, Drew Weatherford was the one who connected me with you guys. So Drew, thank you very much for making this happen. I know you apologized for Florida State not being that good during your years, but hey, we were all big fans of yours. So thank you very much. Jeremy, you have a great day, man. Thanks for joining. Anything else you want to leave us with?
That's all. Everyone enjoy their celebrations today.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for checking out another episode of Elevate Your Grind. This is our special 420 edition. Really want to appreciate Jeremy expanding on some of the things that Commissioner Freed said earlier today. If you guys haven't had major plans yet, we at 420 today will be re-premiering my interview with Ricky Williams and his wife, Linnea. It is an interview I'm very proud of. I've had the opportunity to become friends with Ricky and Linnea over the past few months, actually almost last year. They're really great people. Everybody knows Ricky retired from the NFL. Everyone thought it was just so he can go and smoke weed. There's so much more to Ricky Williams than that. He really has become an educator and a healer, and I highly recommend checking that out. So check us out on Facebook at the Canna Business Group is how you'll find us, or search for Cannabis Lab, our group. And today, premiering at 420, you can see Ricky Williams. That is it for today's episode of Elevate Your Grind. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you soon. All right, we're off.